All right, guys, let's start this thing today. I want to start with Michael Savage and his savage post on Truth Social. Now, why am I talking about Michael Savage? Who is this guy? He is a right-wing propagandist that I had no idea existed before this post came into picture. So here is this guy. Yep, this is who I am referring to. Now, in your neighborhood, when every now and then you see on a light pole a poster of a missing cat, his is the closet I would first search for. And I am actually being very charitable about the contents of his closet. Right. I think a week ago, he posted like a 3 to 4 pages long, what would you call it, a harangue on the ongoing Supreme Court case, Trump v. Barbara, about the birthright citizenship. And guys, I am not a political commentator who picks up the news of the day and talks about it. There are a lot of great guys to do that, to keep you posted on what's going on in the world. There is a lot of value in it. I don't think I can compete with them in terms of quality, in terms of talent. So I'm not going to even touch it. I'm not going to go up and down with the vicissitudes of daily political breaking news, right? My point has always been consistent. I look at what's going on and I try to tie it back to my underlying theme, the underlying North Star, that is people versus the government. The reason Michael Savage's post is so important is not because who the hell he is, it's because our President of the United States, Trump R. Donald, reposted this crap. And when you repost at your position, if you repost somebody else's message, that's almost implicit endorsement of that message. And obviously it sent a shock wave to people who were actually shocked by this crap. And obviously this post is all greatest hits of a right-wing propagandist, right? It's grandstanding, it's gaslighting, it's stonewalling from the actual issues. And obviously the cherry on top is your beautiful, tasty little racism. And our president decides to repost his crap. You miserable old fucking men. There's a silver lining, guys. Sometimes the message about this government, the administration, what these guys are up to gets muddied, right? But this post kind of puts everything together. It's basically exactly what I want to speak to you about. This post is not just a post. By reposting, Donald Trump reminds us that this is their Immigration Manifesto. This is what these guys want you to think about, so that they can, behind your backs, can scheme whatever they're doing. Use your money, taxpayers' money, to fund whoever they want, to increase their net worth from 1 billion to 40 billion over a period of 4 years, so that you don't ask those questions. This is what they want you to focus on. So let's talk about a couple of main points, because I want to touch upon birthright citizenship. I want to touch about H1B visa. I want to touch about racism involved in immigration. I want to touch about so many different topics and how we can remind ourselves that these guys, all they're trying to do is make us blame our fellow people, which is exactly the opposite of what we want to be doing, right? But before we get into it, here's another guy. The right-wing baby or propagandist, and I call him propagandist, not a commentator, because I don't think I've ever heard him criticize the Trump administration for anything. He's your, Fifth Avenue, shoot the guy and still vote, right? He's that kind of guy. This is Benny Johnson. I think you guys must have heard about him. Let's take a listen.
They're going to do. And this is what happens if we lose. What happens if we lose is that the 40 million, 30 million, 80 million criminal aliens will immediately be given naturalization by Democrats.
Wow.
Instantly.
Instant.
That's what will happen. And then they will all, a lot of them vote anyway, then they will all vote.
They'll all vote.
And that'll end the republic as we know it.
Sad.
So that's what's at stake. And it's worth talking about. Your life is made better by mass deportations.
Mass
Every
deportations.
single thing you hate about your life right now or American culture is caused by mass immigration and criminal immigration. and it could be fixed by mass deportations.
Did you hear that? Let's listen to that last few seconds again.
Every single thing you hate about your life right now or American culture is caused by mass immigration and criminal immigration, and it could be fixed by mass deportations.
Every single thing that you hate about your life and the American culture is caused by mass immigration, by immigration, basically. Remember, I've mentioned this many times. Republicans, I mean, I have to give them credit. They have figured out a way to convince their base that all their trials and tribulations, all of their rising gas prices and grocery prices and affordability issues, all of them could be blamed to undocumented immigrants. And now they're kind of expanding the horizon. It's all immigrants. That's what's happening here. This is what we're dealing with, guys. This is the antithesis of what it should be. If on one end I'm saying, guys, focus on the fucking powerful, focus on the government, focus on the elite, focus on their fucking dirty islands where they're abusing children, these pedophiles. Focus on that. Ask them questions about why are we getting into Iran, right? Why did we ever go to Iraq? Why did we chase one guy into Afghanistan? What was your entry criteria? What was your exit criteria of these wars? And the answer is nobody knows. They'll give you something like Pete Hegseth recently. He's the Secretary of War. By the way, so much so for peace, they changed the name of Department of Defense to Department of War. This is the guy who's looking for Nobel Peace Prize. Thank you very much. When they asked Pete Hegseth, tell us why? Why did you get into Iran? Oh, they had nuclear weapons, but we obliterated them. So why did you get in there? There's no clear answer about anything from these guys. And they don't want you to keep asking those questions, guys. Why are you asking? You are just a cash cow for them. You are a way for them to make money. It's your productivity that they want to exploit and then extort that money by instilling in you fear, by telling you illegal aliens, illegals, vermin, use dehumanizing language so that you never, ever have a chance to empathize with them. So very Christian of you. So very Christian of you. This is what they want to do. Going back to their Immigration Manifesto, and that's what it is. This guy Michael Savage, you can think of Stephen Miller, you can think of Steve Bannon. This is what this is about. So obviously the post is about birthright citizenship. He's very angry. He's really incensed is the word he's used. Why are we even talking about birthright citizenship? Illegals should not be getting birthright citizenship, obviously. This is his problem, right? He starts by, like I said, grandstanding. He talks about, we shouldn't be even talking about constitution. We should be talking about public opinion. If you poll, public is going to say 80-20 against birthright citizenship, that babies of immigrants who are not permanent residents or babies of undocumented immigrants should never be given birthright citizenship. He says that we should be looking for public opinion, not constitutional legal arguments. No, you idiot, you imbecile, you miserable old man. It's never about public opinion directly, precisely because people get swept away. That's why framers put in constitutional clauses, amendments, which are based off of principles. Principles, not which way the wind was blowing when the Constitution was written. It's about protecting you from the government. Birthright citizenship, like I mentioned, is very simple. All it says is we're gonna couple jurisdiction and citizenship together. That's what birthright citizenship is about. If the government gets to impose its powers over you, gets to impose financial liabilities over you, if it gets to tell you how to behave, if it can regulate your life, then you get to get the immunities of a citizen so you can stand against them and you can question them. It came out of civil war because guess who could not? Slaves could not question the government. they were subjected to any kind of treatment without any recourse, which is basically a way of saying property. Slaves were considered property. And guess what? If the public opinion was asked at that time, you never know which way they could have gone. Abraham Lincoln had to fight American people to get rid of slavery. Public opinion for hundreds of years was pro-slavery, guys. So this mofo, when he talks about it's not about public opinion. This is a democratic republic. You vote for your representatives. You vote for senators. You vote for House of Representatives, your congressmen, your congresswomen. You vote for governors, presidents, who then make laws and execute them. You don't make laws. This country is not run by referendum for a reason. Because this country, framers didn't want to be run by people who have no work and show up at the polls and vote for whatever nonsense they believed in on that day. That's gaslighting number one. They talk about anchor babies. You know, he talks about a 9-month pregnant Chinese women are flying into the United States in Hindenburg-like balloons and dropping babies like we dropped nuclear bombs. That's not happening. Forget about even if it's happening. Even if, for argument's sake, that's an executive enforcement question. Do you know immigration officers at the airport? They have almost unrestricted, unbridled power to deny any non-citizen from entering into the United States without any judicial review. They could do that. This is a very simple executive enforcement question that can be solved very easily. You can spot pregnant women very easily, and you can adjust their length of stay here, and you can do all kinds of gymnastics, policy gymnastics, to get rid of some loopholes. There is no policy on this planet, no matter how good or bad the policy, there's no policy which is immune to loopholes. It is the job of the executive, it is the job of Trump to make sure that these loopholes are not exploited. Obviously, he doesn't want to do that. He doesn't even want you to know that it's his job to stop these type of anchor baby type of situations from happening, if it is happening at anywhere close to the scale that it is happening, which I highly doubt. But we'll give them, for argument's sake, we'll give them. You don't throw baby out with the bathwater. Just because you can't police the airport terminals doesn't mean that I'm going to get rid of 14th Amendment. Because 14th Amendment is beyond citizenship. 14th Amendment says for everybody, you got to have rights if the government has enforcement agency over you. You got to have rights to protect yourself, your babies. Because what used to happen is if a king is walking down the street and he spots your wife and he likes it, he can just take her. There's nothing you can do. This type of situation, this is what 14th Amendment talks about. And you know what? Congress doesn't want you to know another thing. And I mentioned that in my previous video. They don't want you to know that as part of 14th Amendment, they have the power to control and to regulate who is and is not part of the jurisdiction. They can define. Framers gave that power to Congress. And by Congress, indirectly to the people, because you elect who forms Congress. And Congress has done that in the past. Diplomats, they were not by default out of jurisdiction. Diplomats, these are the emissaries from other countries, ambassadors, consulars from other countries who are in the United States. If they have a baby in the United States, that's not a citizen. Because Congress wrote into law multiple times that diplomats are not considered part of the jurisdiction, and therefore if a diplomat commits a crime, they're pretty much immune from US jurisdiction because they don't have the right to become a citizen. They don't get to be within the umbrella of your jurisdiction either. So you can't do jack if they commit a crime in the US other than just sending them back home and hoping that the justice is served in their home country, or if you have some sort of an extradition treaty with the home country. You know, you could negotiate their return back for trial if the case is like that, or geopolitics dictates, the home country is not obligated to send one of their own back to your country for trial. That's the immunity diplomats get. That's the same immunity Native Americans or Native Indians used to get until, which is the right thing to do, Indian Citizenship Act. Congress decided to get or rope Indians into the jurisdiction. So now, even if an Indian is born on an Indian reservation or a tribal reservation, they're still American citizens, obviously. So Congress has done that in the past. If Congress, obviously they know a lot about economy, they talk to people, they talk to industry leaders, right? They talk to the CEOs, they talk to everybody. You and I, we may not have the time to talk to everybody because we have 3 kids, they need to go to daycare, we need to spend money on them. We don't have time for this. They have time. So they know what's good for the country and what's not, but they also know what's good for their politics. So Congress could just, if immigrants were so fucking horrible, if undocumented immigrants were the scourge of the earth, they were the reason that your life was miserable, as Benny Johnson, the underwear Johnson says, they can just write a law tomorrow and say that undocumented immigrants or any class of immigrants that they're not a big fan of are not part of the US jurisdiction, and 14th Amendment is just automatically going to take care of the rest of them. Simple. They won't do it because they know immigrants pay the most amount of taxes per capita. They know immigrants contribute a lot. They know that if you look at the class of people, immigrants commit less crime than people who are born here. Obviously, because they're incentivized to not commit crimes, right? If you are an immigrant who is not a permanent resident in the United States, or even if you are a permanent resident in the United States and not a citizen, you are not going to commit crimes, or you're going to avoid committing crimes because you could get deported. Your life could get appended because of that. Congress doesn't want you to know that it can do all of that. Obviously, they don't want immigrants and undocumented immigrants not to be part of the jurisdiction. They have to keep them in the jurisdiction to tap into their human capital. And once you do that, Constitution then mandates that if a baby is born here, that baby is a citizen. Do not care what you think about it. Take it with the chief of police. If you don't have the foresight to understand this principle, take it with the chief of police. Cry me a river. So Congress is not going to do it. Congress is not going to pass any law ever to take any class of immigrants ever out of their jurisdiction. So they're going to be always subject to the jurisdiction, and if they're born here, they're citizens, and Congress can write laws to naturalize them if they choose to do so. They don't do it very often. The last time Congress had a consensus to amnesty undocumented immigrants was by a Republican. Ronald Reagan in 1986 gave pretty much blanket amnesty to all the undocumented immigrants in the country. Since then, that's 39 years ago. Since then, we've not had, almost 4 decades, we've not had any amnesty in the United States. Except there was a small amnesty that a lot of people don't know about. About 4,000, if I'm not mistaken, Liberians, they're the people from Liberia, who were undocumented, I believe. They got a blanket amnesty by, obviously, Barack Hussein Obama. Oh, wait. No, that was by Donald Trump. Nobody knew about it. You didn't even know that happened. But that happened. Another thing in the Immigration Manifesto they point out is that birthright citizenship was put into Constitution before air travel, before internet. Well, weren't all the amendments, all the clauses put into the Constitution before modern inventions? Did the founding fathers or the framers, when writing Second Amendment, think about AR-15? Or they were still looking out the window, checking out muskets? When the First Amendment came or was written, did they think about blogs on the internet? No, because none of it is about specific examples. They might have taken specificity of their time, but it's about principle. Obviously, this Immigration Manifesto is full of beautiful racism, right? Everybody loves it. they point out the ACLU lawyer who defended the amendment and its true meaning of birthright citizenship against the Trump administration, Cecilia Wong, who happens to be an American of Chinese descent, calling her snake, calling her responsible to convert America into a cesspool, to helping out an immigrant class that has no loyalty to the US, to claiming that she would love to turn the United States into a Chinese colony, because obviously none of the immigrants who are of any other color or ethnicity other than Caucasian have any loyalty to the US. Obviously, in his well thought out, rational paper, he talks about Indians, because Indians, if you look at the immigrant class per household, are the highest earners in this country. And there is a reason, guys. You can talk about whatever you want. There is a reason Indians are the highest earners. They have a discipline. They have a family fabric. You may not agree with, but it works for them. They have a family support structure. They have the enthusiasm and determination to chase their dreams to the end of the earth. By that I mean South Dakota. You give them a job and they'll travel there. But native born, if they're born in Chicago, they want to live in Chicago. If they're born in Kalamazoo, Michigan, they want to find jobs in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Guys, that's not the world anymore. I'm going to talk about Indian community, obviously, because it's my community. I'm sensitive to it. There's a lot of crap out there about them. It's all born out of envy. Instead of learning from them and rising above, all I hear is people being blatantly racist against them. Obviously, they have problems. My community has problems. I'd be the first one to claim that they have problems. Every community does. And we'll do an episode on that. We'll do an episode on H1B visa. I know a lot about it. But blanket calling Indians all kinds of names just because they're successful doesn't do any justice to your situation. When all is done and said, do you want to be on the sidelines of history? Not even on the wrong side of history. Even for that, you gotta be powerful. You gotta be corrupt. You gotta be influential to be on the wrong side of history, that few sentences in a history book are devoted to you. No. Do you want to be on the sidelines of history that you're not even mentioned ever? Because you denied the ground reality. You denied which way the river was flowing. Guys, it doesn't matter whether you like it or not, whether you think immigrants are to be blamed. None of that matters. This is a world which is constantly expanding, getting more and more connected. Embrace it. Learn from each other. Always remember that it's us versus the authority. Not us versus my neighbor. Bible doesn't say love thy neighbor if they are permanent residents or citizens. Bible doesn't say love thy white neighbor. Just says love thy neighbor. If you claim to be a Christian, at least be that. And one more funny thing is that obviously this man wants to blame immigrants about everything, obviously. He also blames them on high medical bills. That if you go to a hospital and obviously if you cut your cuticle and you're billed $1 million, it's because of immigrants. No, it's because of the insurance companies and their greed. That's why you're billed the type of money that you're billed. Simple. You could open a hospital and charge $20 to do that. Immigrants have nothing to do with it. So guys, we need to see through all of this. This is not a class of people who want you to know what's going on. And you can spot that just because of the general statements that they make. That all your problems, everything in your life is because of immigrants. If they were just to be deported, your life would be beautiful. Till then, shut your mouth. That's what they said. And you know what's the worst part? It's you who are in the dark. They are not. They are not doing anything to change what's on the ground because they know it's beneficial. They know it's good for their economy. They know that's what makes America great. Not closed doors protectionism, but embrace. They know all of that. That's the worst part. They're keeping you in the dark. It's not that they actually truly believe all of that. None of that they believe. No, they're smart enough. They talk to the right people. They're smart enough. They just want you to be in the dark. So guys, let's rise above all of that. Ignore this kind of crap and ask the questions that matter. Why do we keep getting into fucking wars that have nothing to do with us? Why do we keep pumping trillions and trillions of our dollars into these wars? Who are those contractors? What are those companies? Who are those CEOs who are getting benefited by them? That's the question you need to be asking instead of blaming immigrants.